Hi everyone. Sometimes it's hard to know where to start. So I think a good cheats way of doing it is to grab a piece of patterned fabric, as you can see here, and then add your own thing to it. It's really good to have a starting point. Here you can see where I've started a project from a plain printed fabric, and we'll get into the details of it right now. So to start with, I've decided to add some colour. I am using some Inktense, sort of pastels, but they're sticks. They remind me of pastels, and which I'm quite comfortable with, so I like to use those. And what happens is when you add water, it turns it into almost like a dye that sets on the fabric, and it's then waterproof. Washproof, it's permanent, so I love it. Here I am, and I'm just picking out the things that are already there. We've got some lovely gum nuts and leaves, so I'm picking out a little bit more shapes. I'm adding a few extra flowers here with the orange. I'm adding a little bit of blue to the leaves, add a little bit of shade. So you can use it either drawing on the fabric and then using a paintbrush to wet it, or you can use a wet brush on the actual block, as a paint, and then use that. So what I'm doing is just adding more depth. There is just a bit of scribble in the background. I'd like it to be a little bit more a depth of color in the background, so I'm just adding little bits of scribble, and then with a little bit of water, it's sort of like a watercolor kind of effect. It spreads it out, and we end up with something. See here, I'm adding in some stronger lines, and that will be like the stems of the flowers or something. Let's bring in a little bit of a greeny color here. It really does look a bit of a mess at the moment. I promise it'll all come good at the end. But remember, this is wet and darker than it will appear. But look at this rich blue. I've decided to bring this beautiful blue in. This is really turning into quite a impressionist kind of rich color painting. But really, I'm just trying to add a little bit of flavour, a bit of punch to the picture, a little bit of dark colour to the centres of those circles. It doesn't look like much yet, but once you've got your stitching in, and like I say, it's darker at the moment. A little bit of orange I'm adding now. See how I'm adding it in sort of stripes out from the centre, lines out from the centre. That's because, these are gum nuts. They do look like that, and it just adds that lovely little bit of colour to it and line. But I've decided I would like a little bit of yellow in there, and so where yellow and blue make green, where I add the yellow on top, I'm going to get shades of green, and look at it, it's really turning into something quite bright. Yes, add the water and then a little bit more yellow up the top there. I think I'm nearly done adding colour, but it's really changed the dynamic of this fabric quite a lot. Lots of fun. I really am enjoying playing with my new Inktense. But here it is. You can see it's actually quite a lot lighter now. I have started already. I've been having a dyeing frenzy and have dyed up some lovely threads there. They're quite a thick, chunky thread, more like a number 5 kind of pearl cotton, that kind of thing. And I have been doing variegated dyeing, so it's one colour one end and one colour at the other. And I am thinking that I can really use those. So that's how I've started. Can you see I've gone with a few strong lines out from the centers of those flowers, and also a nice running stitch along, you know, that leaf to start with that's there. And that's my starting point, and that's where I got to, and I thought I'll bring you up to date and show you what I've been up to, and we'll carry on now from there. But you can still see the original pattern of that fabric, and that watercolor background that really did look very muddy and a mess when it was wet has actually dried quite nicely into a coherent kind of background that has pretty colors, and I'm sure we can make something magic with. So I looked at a couple of pieces of material that I may or may not use. This one struck me. I've used it a lot, and there's always a little snippet more somewhere that I can use it. So it's a lovely Balinese batik patchwork fabric. But see how it's these blues and these greens, it's already there. The same, this one here I chose was very close to those flowers. And the yellow, well, there is yellow there and here. I just saw it maybe a nice little yellow butterfly or something to be our focal point. Don't know yet, just playing with the idea. But I just thought, well, why don't I cut some, I don't know, something, some sort of leafy shape. I can trim it up later. I'm just sort of thinking, could I put something in there somewhere? I'm going to try it in a few different places, and I go, okay. I kind of like just going for it. That's more me. What other shape do we have? We have this one. So it's a bit fat. I'm just going to do a little bit of a yeah, so I think little bits and pieces of that I could use if I wanted. I could bring it in somewhere. It just adds that little touch of body when the back of it has become very watercolorish. Yeah, I may. But if you're just using a tiny scrap, what does it matter? You just cut something and see what you like. Now, if I'm not sure about the shape, I'll cut one bigger. And then I'll just cut it back. Butterfly could look quite nice there. Maybe a bit smaller though. That's better, I think. So one thing I should look at before I go any further, and I was thinking that I probably need to figure out which part of the design I'm wanting to keep, and that depends what you're using it for. Now I have on an 8x10 frame. I like using this. It's a nice little size, and I like having the I like having this so that I can work out, do I want those flowers or do I want that? You know, do I want as much as I can get in the bottom? Then my butterfly would be disappearing out. So that kind of helps me choose what I might like to do. If I put him on the yellow too, it doesn't really show up as well. So I bring it down here so that it's still in the picture.
It's got a different colour behind it though, so it stands out more for a start. So, you know, I don't need much under my frame, so, but I could bring it over like that, which I quite like, or I could have it more like that. I could have it right up the top, and that, you know, that depends on where I want things. I might want this to be more coming out from the corner of my design, if the corner's going to be in there. So that, it all has an effect, and it's a good idea at some stage. I'm not a big one for planning, but at some stage to have an idea, you know, which bits you want to concentrate on, shall we say. Now, as this is just going to be a picture, I mean, I could use the proper fusible web and everything like that, but I'm quite happy to just do something like this with some glue. Glue stick is enough to hold it for now. And just get a little bit under there to sort of figure out what I'm doing. Leave a gap there. Okay, well, I do have more. I can always add more if I want. So sometimes when I start something like this, there's so many ways it could go, and this is how I'm rolling with this one. I showed you what the original fabric was like. I may even do some other pictures from that fabric and just show you how different they can be. You know, your imagination can take it in a whole different direction. I've wanted one that's lovely and colourful and vibrant, so that's what I'm going with. And I'm bringing out these flowers with these thick lines, and same with that leaf, that lovely thick line. Yeah, and I decided a butterfly would be lovely there in this bright, engaging garden. And there's a piece of a more grass or whatever coming out and just covering the edge of that butterfly. I decided not to do the orange on it because I can bring it out with stitches, but you know, I could change my mind. We'll just see where we roll. I think I'll start with some of this teal, and because we already have glued these down, they're not going to stay there long just with a glue stick, so I will start there. I'm going to use a couple of threads of this stranded cotton that I've separated out, and I'm just going to start with doing that. So I can either go up the center or up the, let's go up the center to start with. And let's just do a simple running stitch. Something that's just going to hold it on for us. I could go back and do the sides, but I'm very close to this other piece, so I'm just going to continue on. And on this one, because I already have a central stem there, I'm just going to go around the sides of it. And part of this flower will probably come out and obscure this edge, but I'll bring it back down there and see. I think some blue would be nice here too against that leaf. I use blue in odd places. I like it as shading. I like it as a pop of colour. Just seems to work in so many ways. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to go around these things at the beginning, and then we won't have to worry about them so much and we already know that's where we want them, so that's the thing. Oh, and look at that, it's led me back to this one, so I may as well go down the side of it. So I'll probably just keep going whilst my thread lasts. Come down the side of that, and I'll go back up again if I can, or I'll go on to this other one. I can always do the other side of this leaf or whatever it is with a different colour. Doesn't have to be the same. Yeah, I think it might go up this one. So there, nothing too tidy, nothing too difficult, just like that. Make sure I go right to the end because I want that to stay there. There we go. So we managed to get this one, and that with that thread held down sufficiently. It's a real naive looking picture, and it's part of its charm. Well, I can't remember how much of this leaf's going to show in the end, but I just wanted to show you what I did. Took the stitch here and did a central line and made that all the way around, and then I went back up to here, and then I added in just a couple of stitches here. Now it's blending this dark line against the light, and it's holding it down at the same time, and that'll do. Now I've done the leaves, I could still use this thread, you know. I'm just going to follow what's there. We've got stems here that could be accentuated a little bit with that green, or some blue, dark blue, because it is a dark navy blue colour. Like I said, that flower's going to come out more, but maybe bits of it will be seen. So when in doubt, you do the things that are already there, and then you know, it's not going to show up that much, but it gets you into it, and then you can add more artistic flair at the end. But this sort of helps you to get your toes into the water, so to speak. And before I go any further, I will just attach this butterfly, just basically with that same running stitch, and you know, later on I can decorate it and make it look more butterfly-ish, but for a start, let's just get it attached so it doesn't come off. You can use a yellow or a gold or something that matches it to start with. It's already been held down here, so I'm just going to start at that point and go around the outside, close to. It doesn't matter if it frays or anything like that at this stage, because I'm going to do probably a series of lines around. I just wanted to show you, if I can, see how it's very ratty around that edge there, and you sort of think, oh, it's a bit frayed. But have a look over this side. I'm now going outside the edge, and I'm sort of creating a little neat border, and I'm using three or four strands now. I'm just putting a thicker line around it, and see how it makes it a lot neater. I really am loving this. I'm not quite getting it, but it's a beautiful blue, but it's a sort of a touch of aqua in there. Wish I could get the colour showing properly for you, but I don't know. I'm putting a little bit on the leaves, like I said. Do forgive my hands. I've just noticed how horribly covered in dye they are from dyeing my own fabrics. Now I've decided, I think, that I fancy a circle. Just, I don't know, radiating out, something. But, you know, I'm thinking I'll just grab something like that, draw around it with a disappearing pen, and put a line in and see if I like it. And if I do, then I'll work on it. So you can see my circle I've got there, and let's just put a few lines in and see if it works. If not, no damage done. But quite like the idea of a circle. Don't know why. I think we've got circles everywhere with these flowers, and it's in the background behind some of those leaves and things, but we'll see.
And there it is. So I'm quite happy with that blue in the background, radiating lines. Like I said, they're not perfectly, uniform, but I like it. It's a good start. Now I've grabbed some yellow here. That's a very glossy kind of thread, and I just thought, well, I'll just add a little bit into this, a little bit of detail into this butterfly, and it'll give it a little bit more oomph. Now I've grabbed some orange and I'm doing a few lines on here, and notice how whatever I do on one side I'm really doing on the other side to even it up. These butterflies are like that. They're like mirror images from one side to the other. So I started in the center where the body will go, did a running stitch arc of a line out to the top of the wing. I'm doing a few little French knots here, a little cluster, and then I'll go back into the center and out and do the other side the same. So whatever you do on one side, just try and even it up a little bit by doing something similar on the other side. So let's get on to the body. I'm using a couple of strands, or maybe even 3, of a brown color, and I'm doing just some long stitches from the top to the bottom. I'm more into the same hole each time at the bottom where it's pointed, and I'm making it more splayed out at the top where the head area is. But then once I've gotten it quite thick with lines like that, I'm doing a little bar stitch. Can you see here? I'm going from one side through and over and pulling that in, and that'll be like segments of a tail, and I'll bring it up and do a few more of those little bars, and I'll end up with a abdomen and a head separated, and that's pretty good. I've grabbed some orangey pinky colors now and a single strand, and just doing a few lines radiating out, you know, not like those thick lines we had on the central flowers, but just to give us a bit of an edge. And I'm doing the same thing here, but I'm using 2 strands now, and just bringing that same color into these where I've used the variegated thicker thread. Sometimes it's sort of trapping some of those threads down. You see? It's looking quite nice. Look how lovely that round circle that we did is. Quite like that. I've added some black into the centers. Can you see that? Just a little bit of a simple running stitch around in a circle. I love that. I added some yellow in amongst those blue lines that were circling. That shiny thread worked well. And really you can add as much or as little as you like. It's really going to look great. I really enjoyed doing this project. I'm going to do another. Something completely different with the same fabric. It really is pretty. Would you like a sneak peek? The next one, I'm not going to use any dyes or colours. I'm going to make it very subtle. And well, I do hope that you enjoyed watching along as I had this little adventure. If you have, do press like and subscribe to my channel if you're interested to see more. You can find me on any of the links below, and thank you for watching.